Once upon a time, two close friends lived together in a charming duplex in Lagos. Their names were Jay and Enola, and their friendship had stood strong for over a decade. It was the kind of bond that others admired, solid, unwavering, and deeply rooted in sacrifice, healing, and shared pain. Their journey began one unforgettable night, 10 years earlier. Enola was driving home from work when she saw a young woman lying unconscious by the roadside, bruised, bloodied, and barely clinging to life. Her heart raced as she slammed the brakes and jumped out of her car. She screamed for help, flagging down vehicles, calling out to bike riders and nearby shop owners. But no one came to assist, people simply crossed to the other side, unwilling to get involved. So, Enola acted on her own. She carried the injured woman into her car and sped straight to the hospital. Doctors later confirmed she had suffered a severe head injury that left her with complete memory loss. When she woke up in the hospital, she was terrified. Her mind was a blank slate, no name, no recollection of where she came from. Enola was torn. She reached out to the police and media, hoping someone would recognize her. But after days of waiting, no one came. With nowhere else to turn, Enola brought her home. She cared for her like family, fed her, clothed her, and gave her a place to heal. Enola even gave her a name, Ajak, a name she had always loved. From that moment, Ajak became her dearest companion. Her sister in everything but blood. Enola taught her how to use a computer, helped her recover, and eventually got her a job at the same advertising agency where she worked. Together, they climbed the ladder of success, moving from Enola's tiny apartment into a beautiful duplex in Lekki. They shared everything, food, dreams, clothes, and secrets. To those around them, they were more than friends, they were sisters. And Enola trusted Ajak completely. One evening, as they waited by the roadside for a cab after work, a luxury SUV pulled up beside them. Inside was a tall, striking man who offered them a ride home. His name was Balaji, and from the moment he saw Enola, he was drawn to her. During the ride, he chatted warmly with her, even asking for her number before dropping them off. Enola tried to hide her excitement as she entered the house, only for Ajak to tease her about meeting her future husband. God forbid, Enola laughed, brushing it off as they both disappeared into their rooms. That same night, Balaji called. He asked Enola to join him for dinner. The date was just 2 hours away, and Enola, heart fluttering, jumped into the shower. While she was getting ready, Ajak entered to borrow a charger. When Enola told her about the date, Ajak frowned. "Don't you think it's too fast?" she asked. Enola assured her it was nothing serious, just dinner. Men who rush things are usually walking red flags. "Just be careful," Ajak warned, handing her back the charger. Enola smiled. "I'll be fine. Don't worry." As she spoke, her phone rang. It was Balaji, he was already waiting outside. Enola lit up. She gave Ajak a warm smile and stepped out to meet him. Ever the gentleman, Balaji opened the door for her, handing her a fresh bouquet. "You look stunning, my lady," he said, gently closing the door behind her before driving off. That night felt like a dream. Balaji took her to one of the most elegant restaurants in Victoria Island, with a breathtaking view of the lagoon reflecting the shimmering lights of the Lagos skyline. The atmosphere was serene, the music soft, and the way he looked at her, like she was the only woman in the world, left Enola feeling truly seen. They spoke for hours, about his childhood in Ilorin, her passion for writing, his tech company, her dreams of launching her own ad agency. Time flew. Before they knew it, it was midnight. He dropped her off gently, not pushing or asking to come in. He simply said he hoped to see her again. Enola entered the house glowing. Ajak was curled up on the couch, phone in hand, pretending to scroll. "So, how did it go?" she asked. Enola flopped beside her with a dreamy sigh. "It was amazing." Ajak gave a half smile. "Just be careful." That's all I'll say, she said, walking off. But inside, she was seething. Why not her? She was prettier, Kavya, more desirable. So why did it have to be Enola? The next morning, Ajak woke to loud laughter echoing from Enola's room. She was on the phone, clearly with Balaji. That carefree giggle, once a source of joy, now grated Ajak's nerves like a jagged blade. She lay frozen under her bedsheet, eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. Each second of Enola's laughter felt like an insult. A reminder that no matter how much she tried, Enola always seemed to shine brighter, laugh louder, and win without trying. 10 years ago, she had nothing. Not even a name. Enola had given her everything, even her identity. And now, the same woman who had saved her, was the one she quietly began to resent. Ajak couldn't bear to watch Enola fall for Balaji. She wanted him for herself. But the days turned into weeks, and the bond between Enola and Balaji only grew stronger. They met often, spoke constantly, sharing voice notes filled with laughter, late-night texts, and video calls that seemed to last forever. Each passing day, Ajak lingered silently behind closed doors, pretending to be unfazed. But deep within, jealousy churned violently. The moment Enola casually mentioned that Balaji had OCD, something dark stirred in Ajak's mind, a sinister plan began to take shape. He's insanely tidy, Ajak. Like, freakishly tidy, Enola had said with a chuckle, slicing yam in the kitchen. He once abandoned his entire house for weeks just because he spotted a single cockroach. He hired an entire cleaning crew to disinfect the whole place before moving back in. Ajak had forced a laugh. That's not tidy. That's insane. No, I like it, Enola replied with a grin. Clean men are my kind of men. She was being playful, but Ajak said nothing. She stared at her phone screen blankly, but her mind was racing, calculating, scheming, twisting. A few days later, as Enola dashed out for a crucial meeting, she forgot her phone on the kitchen counter. Ajak saw her chance. Her fingers trembled slightly as she picked up the phone, seeing Balaji's name sitting innocently at the top of the WhatsApp chat. She opened the conversation and typed. Hey babe, please help me grab a very important document from my bedside drawer. I forgot it and I really need it. Thanks Red Heart. Without hesitating, Ajak hit send. Then she quickly deleted the message and placed the phone back exactly where Enola had left it. Moments later, Balaji arrived at the house to retrieve the document. But as he stepped into Enola's room, his face twisted in horror. The place was a disaster. Trash littered the floor. Used sanitary pads sat on the dresser. Dirty plates stacked beside the bed. It looked, and smelled, like chaos. Balaji stumbled out of the room, breathless and disgusted. He rushed into his car and drove off without a word. Ajak could barely contain her thrill. The moment he was gone, she rushed to clean up Enola's room, scrubbing and wiping every corner. She couldn't risk Enola seeing it that way. A short while later, Enola returned to grab her phone. Ajak greeted her cheerfully, asking how the presentation went. Enola beamed. I got the promotion, she exclaimed. Ajak hugged her tightly. That's incredible, Enola. You truly deserve it, she said softly, even though the words burned like acid on her tongue. Enola picked up her phone, scrolling for a message from Balaji. There was nothing. No missed calls, no texts. That was strange. He always checked in, especially after big moments. She sent him a message. Hey love. I got promoted, partying face, can't wait to tell you all about it. She watched the screen, waiting for the blue ticks. But none came. She called, once. It rang briefly, then silence. Network, she mumbled, though a knot began to form deep in her chest. The evening came. Still no reply. No call. No text. No Balaji. By morning, it was worse. He had blocked her, everywhere. Enola was crushed. Her heart broke piece by piece. She tried everything, calling him with her number, then with Ajak's. She even emailed him from her work address. Nothing. The man who had once called her his queen had disappeared like he never existed. Ajak watched it all unfold. She saw Enola's quiet tears, the way she scrolled endlessly through old messages, hoping to find a clue. And every time Enola turned away, Ajak smiled, knowing she had succeeded. She comforted Enola like a loyal friend would. "I warned you about him, but you didn't listen," she said, patting her back gently. Enola was devastated. She couldn't understand how everything unraveled so quickly. She even tried visiting Balaji's home, but he refused to see her. She came back that day, drained and hollow. She couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Ajak stayed close, offering comfort. "Maybe I can talk to him," she said. "He might open up to me." Enola nodded slowly, desperate for answers. Ajak left the house wearing a fitted dress that hugged her curves perfectly. Her plan was far from over. She didn't look like someone going to fix a broken relationship, she looked like someone ready to step into it. When Balaji opened the door and saw Ajak standing there, he raised his brows in surprise. "Ajak," he said, stepping slightly back. She smiled sweetly. "Hi Baji. I came to talk about Enola." He hesitated, then moved aside. "All right. Come in." Ajak walked in, her perfume trailing behind her like a silent declaration. She perched on the edge of the couch, composed. "Baji," she began softly, "I know you're hurt. Enola told me you blocked her. She's been trying to reach you, but you won't respond. Whatever happened must have really gotten to you, and I'm sorry." She paused, eyes filled with faux concern. Then she added, "I also don't understand how she moved on so quickly, with our boss." Balaji blinked in shock. "She's seeing someone else?" Ajak nodded solemnly. "Yes. Our boss promoted her and now, they've been spending a lot of time together. I hate to say it, but I think she left you for him." The words hit him like cold steel. He stared blankly ahead, confused, hurt. Ajak moved closer, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "I'm here if you ever need someone to talk to," she whispered, leaning in and pressing her lips softly against his. But Balaji didn't move. He sat there, still as stone. Pulling back, Ajak stood and asked, "Can I cook for you? Something warm to help you feel better?" He didn't answer, but he didn't object either. In the kitchen, Ajak moved like she owned the place. She recalled how Enola had once told her Balaji loved curry sauce and rice. So she made it, perfectly. She hummed to herself, triumphant, as the scent of curry wrapped around her like a victory cloak. She plated it beautifully, garnished just the way Enola described, and carried it to the living room with a glow of satisfaction. But the room was empty. "Baji," she called. He emerged from the hallway, now smiling. She returned the smile and gestured toward the meal. "I hope you're hungry." Balaji sat down and began to eat. Each bite brought a small nod of approval. "This is amazing," he said finally, wiping his mouth. Ajak's heart soared. "Really?" He nodded. "You're a great cook. Would you mind coming over once a week to make this for me? I'll pay." Ajak shook her head quickly. "You don't have to pay. I'll do it for free." Balaji thanked her sincerely, and Ajak basked in the moment. Later that evening, she returned home where Enola sat waiting, full of hope. "Well?" Enola asked. Ajak sighed, painting her face with concern. He said he needs space. That the constant messages and calls are overwhelming him. He doesn't want a relationship right now, especially not with someone who doesn't respect his boundaries. Her voice was calm. Convincing. Enola's face crumbled. She sat down slowly, rubbing her hands together as her eyes filled with tears. Maybe I was too much, she whispered. Ajak sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. Don't blame yourself. If he can't appreciate all the love you have to give, then it's his loss. Enola broke into sobs, shattered. That night, she told Ajak not to mention Balaji again. She tried to let go, throwing herself into her job while Ajak kept her secret tucked away like a prized possession. Twice a week, Ajak visited Balaji under the guise of cooking. She used every moment to draw closer, soft smiles, fleeting touches, carefully planned compliments. But nothing worked. Balaji remained kind, polite, but distant. Never warm, never open. Still, Ajak didn't give up. One rainy evening, she arrived later than usual, arms full of groceries. Her makeup was immaculate. Her dress, tighter than usual. Her resolve, stronger than ever. Sorry, she began. I'm so sorry I'm late, Ajak said breathlessly, shaking the rain from her umbrella as she stepped into the house. The rain slowed me down more than I expected. Balaji gave her a faint smile and stepped aside to let her in. His friend I was sitting in the living room when she arrived. Ajak greeted him politely, then made a beeline for the kitchen. Tonight's meal was grilled turkey with jollof rice. The savory scent crept through every corner of the house. By the time she finished cooking, it was well past midnight. I had already left. Balaji, now drying his hands at the sink, glanced at the clock. It's too late for you to head home, he said, turning to her. You should spend the night here. Ajak's heart skipped a beat. Are you sure? She asked sweetly, though her mind was already spinning with excitement. He nodded and led her to the guest room. Make yourself comfortable. Help yourself to anything you need. Thank you, Baji, she replied, barely containing her joy. She sat on the edge of the guest bed, heart racing. She had fantasized about this moment, being alone in his home, one step closer to him. Tonight felt like destiny. But hours passed. When she finally left her room and crept toward his, it was empty. Confused, she searched the house, room by room, but Balaji was gone. Her chest burned with humiliation. He had left her alone in his house without a word. By dawn, fury replaced the fantasy. She stormed out, walking briskly through the early morning mist back to her home. As she reached the door, Enola stood there, surprised. Where are you coming from this early? Ajak snapped. What's your own business? She barked, pushing past her. But her world shattered when she stepped into the living room. Balaji sat calmly in one of the chairs, legs crossed, eyes sharp. Did you sleep well? He asked, his voice cool. Ajak froze. Her hands began to tremble. She turned to Enola, eyes wide, and dropped to her knees. Please, I'm sorry. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I didn't mean any of it. Enola's eyes narrowed, her voice ice cold. Is that so? Was it the same accident when you poisoned your sister's baby 10 years ago just so you could steal her husband? Ajak's entire body shook. Please, please don't call the police. I'll confess everything. But Enola was no longer shocked, she was awakening. You lied about losing your memory. All these years, you pretended, just so I'd let you into my life again. All that sympathy, for nothing. The truth unraveled like thread from a spool. 10 years ago, Ajak, then known as Billy, envied her sister Toyosi, who had married into wealth. Driven by jealousy, she poisoned her baby nephew's milk and watched as tragedy tore her sister's family apart. But that wasn't enough. She went further, hiring armed men to murder her own sister. What she didn't know was that one of those men had once been saved by Toyosi. Instead of killing her, they turned on Ajak, brutally beating her and dumping her body in a ditch on the outskirts of Lagos, assuming no one would find her. But she survived. Terrified of returning to Ibadan, she faked memory loss and assumed a new life far away. What she didn't anticipate was Balaji's friend, visiting that night. He was no ordinary guest. He was the lead officer on her case from a decade ago. And now he had seen her again, right there in Baji's house. That night, I finally revealed the truth to Bolagaji. Her real name isn't Ajak, he said. She's Baliki Adair. She's wanted for the death of her 6-month-old baby, and for the attempted murder of her own sister, Toyosi Adair. Bolagaji froze, unable to believe the words coming out of his friend's mouth. The air around him felt suddenly colder. His instincts screamed at him to act cautiously. So he didn't confront her, he let her stay in the guest room, acting as if everything was normal, then quietly left the house and rushed to Enola's. There, the truth unraveled further. Everything Ajak had told him about Enola had been a lie. And worse, Enola, too, had been deceived. She said you felt smothered, that I was overwhelming you, Enola whispered, her voice shaking. And she told me you'd moved on, with your boss, Bolagaji replied. Their hearts broke anew, not because of each other, but because of the person they had both trusted. The house stood in stunned silence as police officers burst in and arrested Ajak. Enola could barely breathe as she watched her former friend being dragged out. Her mind reeled. How could she have been sharing her home, her meals, and her memories with a murderer? I didn't mean to kill the baby. Ajak cried out, thrashing in the officer's grip. Her mascara smeared down her cheeks like ink bleeding from a broken pen. I just wanted Toyosi to feel pain, I wanted the life she had. The officers were unmoved. They shoved her into the back of the van without pity. Enola stood rooted to the ground, her hands trembling. The warmth that once filled her home was gone, replaced by a dense, aching silence. How could I have missed it, she whispered, sinking onto the couch. Baji sat beside her and gently held her hand. She took advantage of your goodness, he said softly. But she didn't win. Enola turned to look at him, her eyes brimming with sorrow. How did I not see through her? How could I be so blind? Because your heart was clean, he said. You loved without suspicion. You gave your heart to someone who never deserved it. Tears streamed down Enola's face. She had learned a hard lesson, that love and compassion must walk hand in hand with wisdom. Ajak, once known as Baliki, was later sentenced to life in prison. Her confession, paired with mounting evidence, tied her to the baby's death and the attempted assassination of her sister. As for Bolagaji and Enola, time healed their wounds. Their bond, now tested and true, only grew stronger. They married a year later and built a life grounded in honesty, trust, and peace. The story leaves us with a lasting message. Kindness is powerful, but it must be guarded. Enola welcomed a stranger into her life out of love, never realizing she had embraced a viper. Trust, though essential in relationships, must be earned, not handed over blindly. Behind a gentle smile can lurk dark intentions. Not every tear is genuine. And sometimes, the ones we help the most are the very ones sent to break us. So be generous. Be kind. But always listen to the quiet warnings in your heart. They may be your only protection from betrayal.